We will begin tonight with Ms. McGoldrick's 1-minute opening. I think for the record, I need to tell you that Scott Campbell, the other candidate for this position, passed away a few weeks ago. His name will still appear on the ballot. So welcome, Maureen. McGoldrick, would you like to begin with your 1-minute opening statement?
Thank you. I have found Vancouver to be a vibrant city with a small town feel and a very livable environment, and with the most friendly and welcoming people I have ever encountered. Some of this is eroding. Homelessness is up 14% this year alone. We need to work with county, state, and federal agencies, as well as grasp local opportunities like the replaced fire station that could easily serve as a women's shelter for 30, and secure some of the newly released federal money for converting barracks for veterans. On affordable housing, I noticed monies of $700,000 and $900,000 were given to multiple family builders with mere personal assurance that the homelessness will be remembered at rental time. No agreement involving real property is enforceable unless it's in writing. I propose that any affordable housing city monies given must be contingent upon written guarantees of a percentage of units reserved for seniors and disabled, with rents capped at 30% of Social Security. The change to allow building within 200 yards of the waterfront as opposed to 600 has triggered my concerns about the environmental impact and the public access to the waterfront. Thank you. This and other security has prompted my run for City Council.
Thank you. Thank you for that statement. We're going to begin with the first question. What do you see as Vancouver's 2 biggest challenges in the next 5 years? I know some of this will just be a little more thoughts from your opening.
Okay, the 2 biggest challenges I see are basically affordable housing and the homeless. Something has to be done, and done quickly, before the homeless become chronic. And on the affordable housing, I've noticed that actually prices are skyrocketing all over the city. My building itself, that was supposed to have some affordable housing, has priced people out of it. One of my neighbors saw a previous neighbor of ours now living in a park. The nicest lady in the building had to move out because it was now too much too expensive for her. She's a senior, so no consideration is given to seniors. Although we were promised that when we moved in. In talking to other people, I've heard of rent increases that are $150 a month, which is a lot for anybody to absorb these days. And a lot of it is on speculation due to the waterfront. Unfortunately, because of state law, we can't have any rent control on that. To keep this a livable city, we must work. Veterans could possibly, there's some new federal money coming down for the home for veterans. So I've run into homeless veterans with PTSD. Possibly we can secure some of that federal money and maybe make some of those barracks, like I mentioned, into singles, so that we can get the veterans and get them the medical care they need. One of those houses could be turned to doctors' offices. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that answer. For your second question, what ideas do you have for decreasing homelessness and providing more affordable housing, tiny house communities? Would you elaborate in your opening statement on some of the ideas you had for providing more affordable housing?
Well, we have $6 million to go to affordable housing. So if we are giving anybody any of that money, we must need an insurance. If we're giving them 40% of the money they need to build that, you know, like $700,000 was for a $1.2 million building. And the $900,000 was, I think, for a $2.2 million building. We should have control of 40% of those units. We need a covenant running with the land that 40% of those units are to be dedicated, much like the Smith Tower is. They're dedicated to seniors and disabled, and the Smith Tower caps out as X amount of dollars for this type of unit, or I think theirs is 40% of your Social Security income, whichever is larger, is smaller. So something like that. On the small houses, I was at a farm-to-table benefit, and they are working to get small houses. And any time that City Council can help support something like that, I think we have to encourage it, we have to support it, all right? And help the homeless and affordable housing. Actually, the small houses, they're looking to take care of both the homeless problem and affordable housing on the Farm to Table project. And they've just started, but they had an excellent fundraiser, and they're doing excellent work, and they seem to be quite well organized. So I think encouraging anybody that's willing to help us on the federal money, we should go after as much as we can. Thank you.
Now, when you say we, you mean the Vancouver City Council?
Vancouver City Council, absolutely. Do a proposal to convert one of the barracks. I mean, we have a barracks that's now a historical place. That's really nice. We have some of those houses that have wedding receptions and caterers' kitchens. That's very nice. But since we have people sleeping on the streets, and this was a volunteer army, we owe these people more. So we could get some of that federal money, propose a doctor's office in one of the houses, and
Appreciate that. Thank you very much. Why do you think more people do not ride buses? How would you increase ridership, and is that even important?
well, ridership, making a city easy to get around is always helpful. One of the people I met while canvassing, they brought up the loss of the number 3 bus. I too thought it was a great idea to have the number 3 bus going around, but it was much too expensive. It was like $2.85 to get on. I would propose something to encourage seniors to, like in Portland, and I lived there for a while, you hit a certain age, you can get a senior's card, good for 5 years for $25. And it allows you to move around in what they call Fairless Square. If you can show a card, and get on a bus like the number 3 bus, you could go down to Joe's Crab Shack and have dinner, or with friends and meet friends for dinner. You're not going to do that if it costs you $2.85 to ride it there and $2.85 to ride it back. It's too prohibitive. I did use the buses going into town. I still worked when I moved here, and the pass was reasonable. It was I think $90 a month, and if you work for city or county or federal, they'll supplement it or pay the whole thing, which is good. I think it's important to have the buses there. I used them a lot, the trolley and the buses downtown. I do, I'm kind of limited now and have to take my car with me. But I think if they were more affordable, like the number 3 would be more affordable, or if there was a pass for seniors, there would be more use of them. Because seniors do hate to leave their cars. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Why do you want to serve on the Vancouver City Council, and what specific qualifications or experiences do you have?
Well, I have my concern to the environment came because I did have work for an environmental group that was taking care of Santa Monica Bay, and it started because raw sewage was dumped into the bay, and we wanted to stop that, and we did stop that, and we got more laws preventing like oil from being put down into the sewer system, which went straight into the ocean, things like that. So I'd like to keep a watchful eye on that. I have a background. My background is basically in law and computers. So when I originally watched the city council, I thought they were paying too much for computer help and too much, for some legal advice. So I would want to go there and, I guess, being a catalyst to help educate people or tell them where to point to, for a specific issue. I want to help stop the homelessness, anybody who sees it and talks to them, and we had so many of them. I live next door to a park, coming to the park when it was hot, just so they could sit under a tree and get cooled off. So we need cooling centers, warming centers. Actually, if we use the fire station, that could also have all that space. The trucks once were, could be cooling centers, and warming centers when the need arises. I've helped with foods where they have volunteers come in and do things like put resumes together, and things like that to try to help get the people off the streets. Affordable housing. I think I have sympathy with the seniors. I understand the seniors. I am a senior. We've worked all our lives. We deserve some consideration.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Parking fees are increasing substantially in downtown Vancouver. Won't this affect businesses in a negative way? Is there a better way to provide parking? How about public parking garages?
Well, you've kind of hit the home mark with this. When the parking went up, my fees went up. I live on one side of Esther Short Park. I parked on the other side of Esther Short Park, so it went up to the cap of $100, and was a bigger shock to some people because mine was higher to begin with. But I have noticed there's 750 spots there. I noticed a third of them were all of a sudden empty because they're dedicated to a building that hasn't been built yet, and that's one of the reasons they raised it. And they just recently passed a rule that allowing the city manager to double it at will. You're going to have a lot. I've talked to the manager of one of the apartment buildings around. It's going to make it harder for them to rent the apartments. I've noticed that the office building, I just noticed the other day, the office building on top of that has more vacancies. There's been a sign for leasing for about 5-6 months, but there are now more vacancies. You can see from the windows that there's more vacancies. The less people that work downtown because of the increased parking, that means less people going to lunch for the small businesses around there. It's going to have an adverse effect. Some people will not be able to hire. I myself have given up jobs because the parking was just ridiculously high. I talked to somebody that they worked at 6th in Washington, and they parked like 4.5 blocks away on the other side of my building because they just couldn't afford it down there with the kind of job they had.
Thank you, thank you. I think we'll have a 1-minute closing statement if you'd like to.
Okay. And I've prepared it. Can I find it?
Of course.
Sorry, it's on the other end. Okay. Okay, first I want to thank you for listening and giving me the opportunity to express my views. I would like to be your council representative. As such, I will work to get the homeless, including veterans, both the medical and housing help they deserve as citizens. I intend to ensure access for seniors and disabled to affordable housing by requiring written guarantees of units for them with caps on rentals till 30 to 35% of Social Security before allocating any city monies from the affordable housing funds. While we're at that, we could put something in to require subcontractors for some of the minorities that often get left out. We need to ensure both environmental protection and public access to the waterfront. On the security level, we need to make additional securities to ensure the safety of children by visible patrols and to end the speeding around the schools. I've had that request come up from a homeowners association. Hopefully we can all work together. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you, Ms. McGoldrick, very much.